Startups tend to be based on somewhat of a delusion. You need people to believe in the impossible. You're trying to achieve something that wasn't achieved before. Otherwise, what's the point? For decades in the history of AI, agents were theoretical things. We locked ourselves in a room, launched in September 2024, first agent on the market.
Wow.
And the business went from making almost no money to 250x in 1 year.
Amjad Masad, who's the founder and CEO of Replit, leads a platform used by millions, including over 500,000 businesses to build software directly from natural language.
We're headed into an age where anyone can make software, where the most important thing is the quality of your ideas, not the quality of your code. Every job will become more entrepreneurial. It's about generating ideas.
And then what?
When the execution is no longer the bottleneck becomes how do you get this into the hands of people? The other thing is,
welcome back to CEO Tech Live, brought to you by Hexaware. I'm your host, Ben Fanning, and wow, we've got a phone coming your way today with Amjad Masad, who's the founder and CEO of Replit. Amjad, thank you for being here, my friend.
thank you for having me.
Been looking forward to this one.
Me too.
So when's the time you had an unexpected twist or failure in your career, and how did it lead to your success or growth on down the road?
You know, I had predicted that we're headed into an age where anyone can make software, where the most important thing is the quality of your ideas, not the quality of your code. And that the whole premise of the business is that. And in 2023, I had predicted that the business would start taking off, and the AI would reach a point where, you know, all of this would be possible. All of what's possible today would be possible. I was a little too early, and we had grown the company a little too much. We were like, I think 130 people back then. We were making a lot of money. And we got to a point, we had a board meeting where we realized that, you know, with the amount of money we're burning, we're just not going to survive. And I knew it in my bones that, you know, I might be off by a year, perhaps tops, but it is coming. And like, we're going to be able to build that world. And so, you know, made the very painful decision to cut down the team. And what happens when you do a layoff is you burst the dream, right? Startups tend to be based on somewhat of a delusion, right? You need people to believe.
There needs to be a delusion.
Yeah, you need people to believe in the impossible, right? You're trying to achieve something that wasn't achieved before. Otherwise, what's the point? And the moment you do a layoff, people like snap back to reality in a way, and they're like, okay, maybe the thing I joined is not really working. And so we cut 30% of the team, but we ended up hemorrhaging like another 20%. We were like 60 people in like mid 2024. And at that point, a new generation models have come out. AI have progressed to the point that I felt we can build the first agents, the first software creation agent on the market. There was no agents at the time. There was some attempts at it, but nothing was working. And so we pivoted the entire company, and we said, okay, for this company to survive, and this is kind of a dark time, you know, becoming the success. For this company to survive, we need to really bet on this. And so we locked ourselves in a room. Literally, we had a war room, and we built Replit Agent. Launched in September 2024, first agent on the market, before Claude, before any of those were agentic. And it took the world by surprise that this thing was possible. Even the AI labs called us and told us, we didn't know you could do that with our models.
Wow.
And that led to the world we're living in, where like agents are becoming a real thing. Whereas for decades in the history of AI, agents were theoretical things. And the business went from making almost no money. We were at like 2.5 million ARR, which for our size was not very good, to 100x, 2 orders of magnitude growth in 1 year of revenue. And the company went from 1 billion in valuation to 9 in a year as well.
What did you need to believe during that time period of the bursting of the of the vision or I don't know, the delusion you described it, to keep going? Because it seems like when you're cutting staff, when you're getting concerned about cash flow, there are a lot of other ways you could have gone about it, but you stayed the course.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the burning the boats strategy, like the military strategy of like not giving yourself an out. Because I think anytime you hedge, you end up not believing enough to lead the team well, and people can see through that. But I try, whatever I believe in, I try to really embody it and really go all in and not hedge. And this is where I believe the future is headed. This is what we need to do. Even if it means taking massive risk, even if it means, users might not understand it in the short term. When we launched Replit Agent and we transformed our platform from coding primarily to natural language, a lot of users were upset because they were still like in this old mindset. I mean, we're very adamant that this is the future. And now everyone's coding in natural language, literally everyone. But our users were the first to do that because we kind of dragged them along with us. And so I think believing and acting on that belief is very important. And it is stressful, and like managing stress. I mean, you talk a lot about leadership and entrepreneurship, and so managing stress is a big part of it. I actually, at the time,
it'll eat you alive if you don't have a way to manage it. How'd you do it?
It's funny, but I used to be a big gamer growing up. When I moved to the US, America's all about work, work, work. I didn't have time to play any video games, so I didn't play video games for 10 years. That moment of a lot of stress, a lot of work, I actually bought a Steam Deck. And at night, like when I couldn't sleep, I would play video games. And that was like an amazing escape.
Okay. Yeah.
What's interesting about it too is it also infected our product design. Because the platform became a lot more fun. Because when you're no longer kind of stressing on the semicolons and the dot and the syntax of it, programming becomes a lot more joyful. So we took a more gamified approach to building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a cool twist.
Yes.
I think about one of my ways that I de-stress is I like to play tennis. And when I'm on the tennis court, all I'm thinking about is my opponent and playing.
Yes.
It shifts me immediately. So it's not like I'm under less stress on the tennis court. In fact, physically I'm under more, but I've shifted my mindset to something completely different and fully engaged.
Yes.
And then when I come back.
Yeah, ultimately, maybe it's not about stress. It's about getting into a different mode of being. It's like getting into flow and stopping that rumination that's happening.
Yeah, if you think about your company's cash flow, or you're not going to do very well in the video game, vice versa.
Exactly.
And just have that break.
That's right.
And I think that's incredible that it infused, or you said infected our product and verified it in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, do you get that kind of feedback that using Replit is joyful for people?
Yes, people describe it as addictive, as joyful. It's like the most productive addiction that I have. That's what people say. Which is good. There's worse things to be addicted to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What was your first job, and how did it influence your leadership today?
My first job was an entrepreneurial job as well, where I used to, again, gaming is a big part of my life. I used to go to these LAN gaming cafes. I don't know if you had them in the US, but we didn't have good internet. So if you want to play with other people, you would go to a cafe and you would play in a LAN network. And I noticed that they weren't using software to manage their store. They were just hiring a lot of people, and they would write your name and how many hours you bought. And they would watch the clock, and they will tap you in the shoulder until you ran out of time. They just use software for it. And it was also very insecure because anyone can come in with a virus or worm or some kind of keylogger and see their data and wreck your computers. And so I went to the owner of the store and I said, like, what if I built you software that can manage that can secure the store, that can manage you reduce your head count, create loyalty programs. I kind of pitched it to him. And I didn't have any code written at the time. I just knew that I could do it because I've been coding for many years. And it's like, yeah, I think that's amazing. We would buy it. I was like, okay, give me a couple months. Those couple months turned into a year. I went away for more than a year. I remember my friend used to, like sports and things like that. I used to play a lot, go out in our neighborhood and play soccer and all of that. My friends were like, you just disappeared for a while. And so I was so engrossed in what I was doing. And then perhaps a year and a half later, I went out to them and was like, okay, I have the software. And I was like, who are you? They totally forgot about me. But luckily the world hadn't moved on at the time. And so I started showing them software and they immediately liked it. And they started paying me a lot of money at the time, hundreds of dollars. And McDonald's had just opened up in Amman, Jordan, where I grew up. And I took my entire class to McDonald's. I was bawling.
Well, we're getting Big Macs.
Yes.
What incredible moment. Is it sounds like that was an entrepreneurial mindset that emerged. That moment, had that been role modeled for you? Had you picked it up on the way, or just sort of inherent to who you are?
My father is a government engineer. There wasn't a lot of entrepreneurs around, but my brother and I were always entrepreneurs. My older brother, he still is. He's now building actually software with Replit, and so we lived in a kind of low income neighborhood, and things were cheaper there than our friends in the same school that lived in higher income neighborhoods. So we used to like buy certain toys and sell them more expensive. And so we were always scheming. I think just the fact that disparity, the fact my father stretched in order to put us in better schools, and by putting us in better schools, there was an income disparity. And so we saw our friends having PlayStations and we didn't. And so you develop that desire, that need, and you're like, okay, what am I missing? You're missing money. Okay, but how do you make money? And that's the entrepreneurial
You seem
question.
like a guy, you're like, hey,
Yeah.
you're just looking for the problem to solve.
Right, exactly.
The problem is, I need the game, I need the video gaming console
That's right.
my buddies have. Or it's and here you are solving bigger problems. What's the advice you give your younger self, or something you'd tell your younger self to try?
Every success I've had been driven by trusting my instincts. And the thing that I find most fascinating and interesting tend to yield eventually into some kind of business venture. But they start out, even when I started out on Replit, I was interested in compilers and browsers and how do you put compilers in browsers. It was like a very technical, academic sort of interest. Even with AI, I was just like fascinated with it. I didn't exactly know how you could monetize it, how it could create business value. But there are times when there are like investors or other people that are trying to influence my decision-making where I actually went against my instinct and went in a direction that was more top-down reasoned. You can easily reason, and there are people who are good at that. I have friends that will be like, oh, this is what the world needs in terms of business. I'm gonna go build that and sell it, and they're successful. I'm more like bottoms up. It's like innovation first, and then go find a way to monetize that. But that's just how I am, and I think periods where I didn't trust that instinct is when we didn't do well.
That goes counter to a lot of people who say, hey, don't build the dreams, that build it. If we build it, they will come.
Yeah.
They say find it, then build it. But your mind is, it's almost like, it sounds like you have a creative part that's expressed, and then you're able to sort of think through the business.
Yeah, there's a creative, there's also a predictive aspect. Like I like to predict where technology is headed.
Okay.
I like to kind of like see something in its infancy and be like, okay, well, you project that out and that's gonna be huge, right? And so I'm able to project out progress in technology just because I've been coding since I was 7 years old, and like I've seen PCs evolve so much, and then the smartphone evolve so much, and then you sort of understand how technology works, where everything starts out kind of crappy. And the rational thing to do is like GPT-2, when it came out in 2020, it would basically spit out a coherent sentence and they would go completely off the rails and start speaking Chinese to you. That was literally it in 2020. And so most people are just like, what is this crap? Like, we're working on real things.
Couldn't see the possibilities.
Couldn't see the possibilities. So I'm able to kind of see the possibilities. And finally, I think that where it gets problematic for people who think build it and they will come is they don't do the sales and marketing. I actually do the sales and marketing. I enjoy that part.
Right.
Like, so I build the thing and I want to go sell it. I want to go tell people about it. So it's important to combine these two things.
Yeah, I can see that. Otherwise, you could end up in trouble. A product you don't love that you're selling, or one you do love but not selling.
Yeah, but you're not telling anyone about it. You're like, there's a lot of people, and I tell entrepreneurs that are starting their business on Replit today, is that don't fall in love in the process so much that you're just building the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Go get some validation, go get some interest.
You said you predict. You like to predict. You think about that. What are you predicting?
So I think the next big thing in AI, so if you look at the AI progress, we went from initially GPT-2 and 3 were autocomplete engines. You would type the beginning of a sentence or the beginning of a line of code and it completes it for you. Then ChatGPT came out and ChatGPT introduced this concept of prompting. And I would say we're still in this era of prompting. Yes, we have agents, but the agents still need a lot of hand holding. You're prompting them. And I think we're headed to a post-prompting world. Yes, some people will still enjoy the process of prompting, but now you can give KPIs and high-level goals to agents in the same way you do it with human employees and executives, right? I tell my marketing executive or my growth executive, I want our conversion rate to be 10% in the next few months, right? We want to double conversions. That's how you talk to an executive. You don't prompt and give it the exact details.
Yes. Okay.
I think with agents, we're headed to, I think by later this year, you can tell an agent, I want you to optimize my conversion funnel to get it to a certain level, and it will go and work for days and weeks at a time in order to be successful at that.
And then what?
Then I think the job of, actually every job will become more entrepreneurial. It's about generating ideas. It's about figuring out the opportunities in front of you. It's about being in tune with the culture and with the technology and figuring out what needs to be built next. Sales and marketing becomes even more important. So when the execution is no longer the bottleneck becomes how do you get this into the hands of people? You're also going to be competing against so many other people. And so how do you position your product? How do you get your product into the hands of people and actually make it cool and interesting and fun? And so all these other skills that mattered before, but perhaps were secondary to the ability of building something, now become primary.
Well, it sounds like a very exciting future. And also,
especially for folks like you, like, tell
me more.
Your skill is communication, right? Your skill is talking, is being able to, you've built an audience. I think there's a flip that happens. We were talking about Hormozi earlier, very influential YouTuber. Because of his reach, he was able to sell I think the first day on the market of his book was like $100 million.
Yes.
It's like probably the biggest book launch in the world.
Yes, huge.
And so,
it's a non-fiction book.
Right. Yes.
It's amazing.
It's really amazing, and the reason is because he built the audience first. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people who are able to build audiences, get distribution, will, whenever they have an idea, they can then monetize that very, very quickly.
So going down that road about your thought leadership, you're very active on social media. You're doing on our show or Mosey's. How do you think about that as part of your responsibility as a leader, as a founder, and how much time can you possibly dedicate to this when you're building this business that's transforming the world in a lot of ways?
Right. So I think there's a few trends to pay attention to. There's one trend where people, I think with the rise of social media, people no longer want to relate to brands, they want to relate to people. So they'll ask themselves, who's behind that brand? What are the faces that are behind that brand? I think if you think about Elon, perhaps a little controversial, but a lot of people buy Tesla products because of Elon, right? It started much earlier with Steve Jobs and things like that. But now that's the primary way in which people relate to products, right? So it's important for the CEO to be out there talking about it, creating that trust, creating that relationship with the audience. The other thing is tech used to depend on tech media. And at some point, tech media became hostile to tech. And part of the reason is incentives is because tech was eating their revenue. And so, but also just like that negativity sells more than positivity.
That gets the clicks, the negative headline.
That's right. So you need to be out there talking directly to people as opposed to kind of getting filtered through PR. So that's another trend. And so, the combination of all these things means that as CEO, you no longer can just build a product or run a great company. You also need to be the main salesperson, the main marketing person.
Wow. Yes, you are the you are the chief sales leader.
That's right.
As part of that, it seems like that's been a huge part of Replit's rapid success because people build that trust, perhaps with how you are out front. And it's interesting because in technology, is it a people game or is it a technology game?
Increasingly a people game because, again, the technology is getting automated. You'll be able to dream up things and make them happen. You can go to Replit, put in an idea. It doesn't have to be fully formed. You'll get a prototype very quickly. And from there, you can iterate on it, get it to a point where you can deploy it. And you'll get your first few users. The other day, an entrepreneur from our community, built like a Duolingo for a language that was only spoken by 220 million people. It's called Dari, the language. Doesn't have a lot of speakers in the world, but like because software is getting easier to build, even a small market makes sense because an individual builder can go after it. Previously, the way Silicon Valley thought, Silicon Valley needs to sell products to billions of people. But if you're a solo entrepreneur, you can have a market of 1 million people and still make a lot of money and still make a lot of money.
Yes. Wow.
So it's just like an entirely different world of operating, and the people that are successful in it understand people more than they understand tech.
How does all that tie into this mantra of seek pain?
Yeah. So one of our values at Replit is seek pain. And
everyone's signing up to join.
A lot of people do not join because of that, for sure. Now, counterintuitively, what I tell people, seeking pain, actually, the net result of it is less pain. Because what I've observed in companies, and people in general, people want to take the path of least resistance. And that means usually delaying pain, delaying the reckoning that it will eventually happen. A company needs to do a pivot. You don't do it because it's painful, because your users are going to rebel, because some employees are too tied to what you're doing before, because maybe investors don't understand what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah.
And so you'll still have to do it, but you'll delay it. And eventually, and the big pain will build up and eventually you'll do it. Now, if you say, okay, what is the truth and what is the most painful thing that I need to do in order to get past that, to actually achieve get to a point where what we're doing is in line with where the future is headed, where the truth is, and if you do that, I think you'll be in a much better position. But again, most companies don't want to do that. They delay layoffs. They delay, everything is delayed. They delay even changing executives. And so that lens of seeking pain, and the other one kind of related to what we're talking about with people, getting feedback on your product is tough, right? People want to hear good things.
They want the good review. Oh,
yeah.
I'll read those good reviews all day long.
And when there's a bad review, that person is a dick. And let me go to
That's exactly.
Let me go to the next guy. Yeah, exactly. And so instead, you want to seek the bad because the good will get to you. You want to seek the bad. So when you see a user and they're telling you all the great things about your product, you have to explicitly ask them, what is bad about it? What sucks about it? And so I think that's an important way of building products, especially going into the future.
Do you have a favorite moment where Seek Pain really paid off to take the pain now, or getting ahead of the curve?
Yeah, there are so many. I would say certainly what we talked about with the layoff is an example of that, of just like going ahead and doing it because I knew it was going to happen anyways. Management changes in general are very, very painful. And I see it in myself where sometimes I sort of can't sleep and I'm sort of suffering internally because I know there's something that needs to change, but I'm not actually taking action on it. And this is where a lot of stress comes in. So, for example, the way we work at Replit changed many, many times over. I think even now, I would say we're probably going through that, where the way AI changes organizations is in a tremendous way, right? The way we build organizations is kind of based on the military in many ways, like the hierarchy, right? I think we're transitioning to a point where the organization will be more like networks. Because when knowledge no longer need to filter through the hierarchy, everyone can self-serve knowledge. AI can tell you everything that's happening in the organization. You don't have to read every Slack channel or every email. AI can give you the data, can allow you to run experiments really quickly. Every person in an organization needs to become an individual contributor. And you need to build the company with the mindset of empowering these people. And so, for example, we encourage managers to think more like leaders and to seek pain and have more reports. Previously, like in tech, a manager might have 5 reports. I think you can push it to 10, 15 reports at this point, because these people should be more autonomous. You don't have to babysit every decision, handhold them through everything. I think management becomes more like coaching.
Probably easier to lead 15 than manage 15.
Yes, that's right.
In terms of that front.
That's absolutely right.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah.
What a fun interview today. Mm-hmm. What's it been like getting to know Hexaware?
Hexaware is fantastic. Replit does not have a DNA, particularly in enterprise, because I've always built developer tools and just like build something, like build it and it will come type of mentality. Enterprise is a totally different game where just the process of selling an enterprise, the process of educating them, the process of helping them do change management, help them discover the art of the possible is very, very different, right? You can build the best product in the world, but you might still not get adoption in the enterprise. So working with Hexaware, the way they do what they call vibe business or vibe sessions, where they go into companies and they take legacy software or requirements that are perhaps a little opaque. They sit down with the product managers and leadership teams and design people, and they're able to use Replit to build a product very quickly. Really inspired how we do go to market, because the way all our salespeople are users of our product. So when they go into a sales session, they're constantly demoing. They tell their counterpart, withhold judgment, just use the product. Let us come in and run a hackathon for you. Get everyone hands on keyboard, seeing what's possible. And so it taught us a lot about that. We also get tremendous feedback from them. Like, Hexaware, for example, a big challenge for us going forward in the enterprise, they don't just want to use Replit as a prototyping tool. They want to take it all the way to production, right? On the entrepreneurs startup side, people build their entire stack, their entire business on Replit. In the enterprise, they use Replit to kind of prototype or build internal tools, but we want to go all the way to production code. So working closely with them to kind of figure out the next leg of growth for us.
Can't wait to see what's next, my friend.
Thank you.
Amjad, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
I appreciate it. Likewise.